Welcome to Project Inner Leadership, where women build and become. This is the podcast for ambitious women in business who are building, leading, and achieving, and who know they are meant for more. Here, we don't just talk about strategy, we talk about consciousness, self-leadership, emotional mastery. Because the business you build will never outgrow the woman you become. If you're ready to expand beyond your current limits, to dissolve inner resistance, and to manifest a business and a life that truly reflects your deepest vision, then you're here in the right place. This is about thinking beyond what feels realistic, building a business without burning out, leading beyond fear, and creating from clarity instead of pressure. I'm Christina, and this is Project Inner Leadership. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new podcast episode. I'm so happy you are here with me today. I am at the moment in London. I'm sitting in my office. It's the 22nd of April, 26, and I'm looking out of the window. I look straight into the green nature. And honestly, these days, the sun is shining every single day, and it feels like summer is coming. And I've been living kind of in London for the past 7 years, and I never had this experience that in April already you feel the summer. And honestly, I really love it. I don't know where you are at the moment, in which country, in which place. Maybe you're already in a sunny place. I'm really jealous of you because I'm such a summer person. Even my husband is such a summer person, and also my child loves summer. He loves the sun and he loves the sea because he was living his first few years in Dubai. And still, after we moved back to London, we are still thinking about moving out again because it's just too much rain here. And I think the world has so many different beautiful places. So why should you just live only in one place when you could enjoy the full beauty of this beautiful planet? Today, I would like to talk about money, one of my most favorite topics, money, because money is such a great energy. And I believe that so many people, when they start to work with the energy of money, they could really change their life and could really live a much better life they're living at the moment. And it's so easy to work with the energy of money. It's just we have never been taught how to deal with money. We have always been taught money is bad, money is this, money is this, money is that. And you have to do this and that and this and that and work really hard to earn money. But that's not the case. In this podcast episode today, I would like to tell you how I made my first 50K a month constantly, like every month continuously. I made 50K. I want to show you a little bit of my journey, and I want to show you also what I learned on the way. So let's get straight into it. How did I make my first 50K a month? The truth is, it didn't happen overnight. It actually took me 3 full years to reach that point, and not just to hit it once, but to reach it constantly, like every month, 50K. And when I look back, the journey didn't feel like a straight line at all. It started much smaller. At the beginning, I was making around 2,400 to 2,600 a month with my own business. Then at some point, I reached 10K a month. And from there, the next big milestone for me became 50K a month. And in my experience, it was always like this, that when I set myself a goal, for example, when I reached the 2.5K a month and I said, okay, I want to reach now 10K a month, that's my next goal, then I never made 10K exactly. I always made a little bit more. So, for example, 11K or 12K. And when I said, okay, I want to reach the 50K a month, I reached, for example, 60K. And the next step, when I said, okay, I want to make 100K, I reached, for example, 130K or 133K. So it was always a little bit more, which is super interesting. I don't know if other people have the same experience as I have, but yeah, that was the case for me. But if I'm completely honest, my real goal was never just 50K a month. For some reason, I've always had this number in my mind, 8 million. I want to reach 8 million a month. That number, for some reason, has always been in my mind. And I haven't achieved it yet because we're making at the moment around 200K a month. In the past years, I've had to acknowledge something very important, which I would like to share with you. While my consciousness might be able to imagine something like 8 million a month, I realized that my nervous system and my mind are not always ready to hold that. They're not always ready to hold this life that I want to live. And for example, the amount of money I want to get in. So instead of trying to jump straight from where I was, for example, from 2000 to 8 million, which was feeling completely overwhelming for me, I learned to first break it down into smaller, more manageable steps. So, for example, when I started with 2,500, I said, okay, first I want to reach 10K. And when I reached the 10K, I said, okay, 50K, that's the next steps. And then from 50K to 100K and so on. So step by step, I allowed myself to grow into each level because otherwise, your mind will not believe you. If you say, okay, I'm making at the moment 2.5K a month and I want to reach to 8 million a month, for my mind personally, that was too much. It was super unrealistic. So I had to break it down that my nervous system feels more comfortable, is trusting me more. It's easier and more comfortable for me and my body. So for me, just reaching a consistent take 10K a month took me about a year and a half. And then it took me another year and a half to finally reach the 50K mark. And if you're wondering how I actually did it, because so many people are asking me that, but the honest answer is at the beginning, I had no real plan what I was doing. There was no clear strategy behind it, no structured roadmap that I followed from start to finish. But what I did have, and what I now understand to be the most important foundation, is having clarity. Many people start with the question, for example, where do I want to go? So, what is my goal? But I say, before asking where you want to go and what is your goal, you have to ask yourself, who am I really? This is where everything begins and where everything began for me, because most people move through life as if things are simply happening to them, as if they are reacting to their circumstances, to external events, to what life gives to them. But what changes everything is when you begin to recognize yourself not as a passive participant, but as the creator of your life. And even deeper than that, you are pure consciousness. That was the fundament for me. And that is also where most people struggle with manifestation because they haven't done the fundament yet. They haven't built the fundament yet. If you are not familiar with the topic, what is pure consciousness or what am I talking in my whole podcast, I just want to simply break down to understand this. Pure consciousness simply means that we learn to understand that we are not our thoughts and we are also not our emotions. We are the observer of them. It's like we are sitting in the cinema and we are watching a movie. The movie is our life, so we are playing in that movie a role or several roles, but we are not inside the movie. We see ourselves in the movie, but we're actually not in the movie. We're sitting outside the movie and watch it. So that is the concept of the pure consciousness. I also like to imagine it like this always. Whenever I feel an emotion or whenever there's some challenge in my life, I always think and imagine it like this. You are the sky, and the sky is infinite, boundless, and it has no limits. Within the sky, everything exists. There is a space for everything, for every experience, for every emotion, for every possibility. And there are clouds in the sky. And those clouds represent your thoughts, your feelings, the things that come into your life and then pass. It could be a nice experience, it could be maybe an uncomfortable experience. Whatever this cloud is, it can only exist because you are the sky and you give this cloud the space to travel through you. Some clouds are maybe heavy, for example, like fear, doubt, anger, sadness, and others are light, like love, excitement, joy, passion, pleasure. And then there is also the sun. The sun represents everything that you desire, like abundance, the life you want to create, the home you dream of, the partner you want to share your life with, the family, the clients, the health, the experiences, all of it. It already exists in the sun, and the sun can only exist because you, as the sky, give space to the sun. But what's important is this. So you are not the clouds. You always have to remember you are the sky. And that is where most people struggle because they identify themselves with the clouds. So it's like they forgot that they are not the observer anymore. They identify themselves with the role they're playing inside the movie. So they forget that they're actually outside the movie watching it. They feel like their reality is what's happening inside the movie. That is something that happens to all of us because we are humans, and once we come to this earth, we forget where we really come from, which is supernatural because the sense of life is to grow into our real power again and to remember who we really are. The events happening to us, they feel so real because of the emotions. Like if your partner breaks up with you, it feels so real because you feel the heartache, you feel the sadness, you feel the burn inside of you. And that makes the life event feel super real for you. And in that moment, it's so easy to forget that we are just the observer, but that doesn't mean you should suppress your feelings in order to be pure consciousness. This is not something you should do, but I also talk a lot about this in my other podcast episodes. So important is, long story short, you're not your fear, you're not the voice in your mind telling you that you're not good enough, not capable enough, not ready. Those are simply clouds moving through you. And the moment you forget that, the clouds begin to define your reality. So the first step is always to return to this awareness. I am the observer, I am the space in which everything exists. Everything exists there. The 8 million that I want to have, they exist there. The dream house I want to live in exists there. The partner I want to share my life with also exists in this sky. And from that place, something powerful happens. You begin to recognize that you are not limited. The voice that always comes up and tells you the story you are limited, this is also just another cloud that comes to your sky and just wants to travel through you. The mind itself is just one part of the whole. It's not you. It belongs in the sky, but it's not the sky itself. At the beginning, this can feel very unfamiliar, even uncomfortable, because the mind is gonna fight it. The mind will say, no, 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 no. Life cannot be limitless. Life cannot be how you desire it because of this and this and this and that reason. So we have to train that. We have to embody this way of living. And only from that place, the next step truly makes sense. Because now you can ask yourself, what do I actually really want in my life? What is my goal? And this question is no longer answered from limitation. Because if you have not built the foundation yet, you have not understood yet that you are pure consciousness, then you always will make decisions and you will always create a life based on limitation, because you still identify yourself with the mind. You still identify yourself with the cloud and not with the sky. But if you have built that foundation first, then you can answer this question from possibility, from a limitless space. Yeah, because you are directly connected to the universe. You are creating everything out from the universe, and the universe is limitless. From this boundless space, you can begin to define what you want to experience in life, not based on what you think is realistic, but based on what you truly desire. Of course, the mind will still always play its role in your life, because when you set a goal that feels too big, like for me, in my case, the 8 million a month, it can still feel overwhelming. But that's absolutely okay, because your mind and the nervous system, they will always need a little bit more time to adapt to what you really want in life. But as I've already mentioned in the beginning, to make it for your mind and your nervous system a little bit easier, you can break down your steps into smaller steps so your system can process it in an easier way. But once you have made that decision, once you are clear about what you want, something else becomes necessary. You have to let go of the old to make space for the new. And this is where most people struggle. I see so many people struggling with this, because along the way, resistance appears. For example, fear, doubt, uncertainty. If you think that successful people are those people that have the least fear, then you're absolutely wrong, because I have seen super successful people, like people that they make 600 million a year. And these are the people that have the most fear, actually. But the difference is, as I've already mentioned, they don't identify with the fear. They don't identify with the cloud. They just let the cloud be there. They don't take the cloud super seriously. They just take the cloud as part of the sky, as something that just wants to travel through, that just wants to have its space, and then it comes and goes again. But once you believe the fear, once you believe that the fear is your reality, the fear is you are really in danger because, for example, you want to make 8 million a month, or because you want to build your own business. Yeah. Or maybe because you want to change your look, like you want to lose weight or you want to build muscles, like whatever it is that you want to achieve, and there comes up and resist a resistance inside of you. As long as you continue to identify with this resistance, the more you will stay in the place where you are at the moment. So what do we need to do is just accepting the cloud as for what it is. And that is just giving it the allowance to be there, to be a cloud right in this moment in your sky, in you, basically. Because everything we experience in this life is energy. So all the clouds are energy, all our feelings, emotions are energy, money is energy, health is energy, everything is energy. And I know I'm repeating myself in every podcast episode, but I'm gonna repeat that until you believe in that. So whoever doesn't believe in that yet, that's your call for doing that, for starting to do that. So everything is energy, and energy cannot be erased. It can only be transformed. I cannot say, I don't want to have this energy in my life, so I'm going to push it out from my universe and then it's gone. No, that doesn't work. You cannot push away and destroy energy, like, I never want to have the feeling of fear again. I never want to feel sad again, right? You can't do that, because energy cannot be erased. It can only be transformed. So instead of rejecting the fear, rejecting the cloud, you just simply allow it. Instead of suppressing the cloud, just give it its space. Same is with doubt, for example. We all have the feeling of doubt. When we want to try something new, we leave our comfort zone. The first thing is our mind telling us crazy stories, and the feeling of doubt comes up. So instead of suppressing the doubt, you do something completely different. You allow the doubt. You give the doubt its space. You recognize that the doubt is just a cloud and is allowed to exist in your sky. Because the moment you resist them, they don't disappear. They accumulate, they become heavier, and they turn into a huge storm. And then your life is in a real disaster. But when you allow them to be there without identifying with them, without holding on to them, without analyzing them, without judging them, just allowing them to be there, then they start to move, and they move on and they pass, and the flow in your life returns. This inner work is the foundation. It's honestly so important. That's why many people, they can't manifest, they can't create the life that they really want, because they haven't done the inner work yet. They haven't built the foundation yet. Without this, manifestation doesn't truly work. Believe me, because I was there. Because manifestation is not about forcing the outcomes, it's about creating alignment. And only if you are in the same energy as the life that you want, then it can become your reality. Without that, it can't become your reality. Same as with money. If you are not in the same frequency, in the not same energy as money, you can't have money. That just simply doesn't work. Only once this foundation is in place, the external tools start to make sense, like the visualization, the meditation, the affirmations. All of these become powerful, but only when they are built on this deeper understanding. And then something very natural happens. You begin to receive impulses. Like, you have built a foundation, you know you're the consciousness, you're the sky, you're not the cloud. And then you are clear about what you want to achieve in your life. What is your goal? What do you want to create in your life? Then you start to receive impulses. So you don't have to sit down and force a strategy. You don't have to figure everything out with your mind. Instead, the ideas begin to come to you naturally. We call that also intuition, or sometimes we call them coincidences. Like, we go somewhere and we suddenly meet someone that can help us or show us something. These are not really coincidences, because I don't really believe in coincidences. I always believe only in the decisions you make for yourself, and then life will guide you to that place. So you receive small intuitive nudges, a feeling, for example, to take a certain step, to reach out to someone, or you receive an information that is super helpful for you to make the next step, for example. So these impulses are guidance. They show you the next step. And this is where now the mind comes into its power, because in our system, we have been taught to always use our brain and our mind. So all the energy from our body goes into our head, to the top of our body. And our brain and our mind are actually very small. They can only, as I've already mentioned hundreds of times in my podcast episodes, they can only make decision and work based on what you have already experienced. So they are very limited. But unfortunately, because we have learned to always use our head, that means our decisions and everything we do is always based on limitation. Better to listen to your impulses, which will come up naturally, and they usually come out from your heart, not from your head, because nobody has ever solved anything by just thinking. Nobody has ever built a business only with strategy. There must be a heart also involved. There must be your intuition be involved. But once you have followed these first steps, then you can start to give the power to your brain, because our mind and our head is not here to create the vision. They are here to execute it. So our mind, our head, the top of our body helps us to organize, structure, and implement the impulses we receive step by step, and not all at once. And that is exactly how I reached my milestones, not through a fixed strategy that I can explain step by step, but through this process. First, the awareness, allowing my emotions to flow through, and understanding that I am the sky, and then following my impulses, which come after I make a decision of what I want in my life. And once I receive the impulses, I can go into action. My brain helps me to break down the actions that I should take into little steps so I don't get overwhelmed. Because our brain always gives us orientation and it's super helpful in taking the action, but it's not helpful in creating our vision. So if you ask me today, what was your strategy? My honest answer is I have no clue. I didn't have a strategy. I listened to my intuition, I followed my impulses, I identified myself with the sky and not with the cloud, and I used my mind to turn those impulses into action. And that is what made it possible to reach the place where I am at the moment, which is not the final place because I've already told you my final place is much, much bigger. And even if I reach it then, maybe I'm still not really satisfied because I love the game of this life. I love the game with my emotions and I love to be the sky and play around with the clouds that travel through me. If this episode resonated with you, I invite you to take a moment. Not to do more, not to fix anything, but simply to notice what moved inside of you. Growth does not start with doing, it starts with awareness. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss the next episode. And if you feel called to, share it with another woman who is building or becoming. Because we don't need to hustle harder, we don't need to silence our emotions. We simply need to lead ourselves differently. Thank you for being here, thank you for doing this work, and remember, the way you lead yourself determines what you build. I'll see you in the next episode.